Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the CE Pro podcast. I'm Arlen Schweiger, executive editor. In this week's episode, home networking is crucial these days. So what can integrators do to get their customers up to speed? And how should they be addressing cybersecurity needs? Hagai Feiner of Access Networks lets us know. Plus, CE Pro recently named its Quest for Quality Awards winners. And AudioControl's Alex Camara shares with us insights on how companies can deliver award-winning tech support. Hagai Feiner, founder and CEO of Access Networks. Thanks for joining the CE Pro podcast with me and senior editor Bob Archer today.
Thank you, Arlen.
So let's get right into the current situation we're in. You know, with all the work from home and all the education at home going on right now. I'm sure you've been talking to your dealers a ton during this time. Can you share some anecdotes about what you're hearing from the Access Network dealers about what they've encountered from customers during this coronavirus crisis?
Sure. On one hand, we see the challenge of servicing clients during this period. Homeowners don't necessarily want you to come into the house, but at the same time, they're demanding anything you can give them as far as networking capacity. We're very familiar with the terms low latency and high bandwidth. And so even and this really doesn't just relate to competitors or other brands in the industry. All brands are experiencing this, because even if you have, let's say, an access network system deployed in your house, just like I do, this period, when all of this started and the lockdown started in California last month, I even felt the challenge with my network, because this is an apartment that we moved into. It's a rental. We put the network in that we brought in from our old house, didn't really think about it. There's no wiring here. So there was one access point downstairs. And guess what? All of my conferences are right here in the master bedroom with you. And video doesn't transmit that well because of the issues in this apartment. And so I, as a homeowner, needed to go and address this on my own. Luckily, obviously, I have the resources, but it's almost brand agnostic, because if you have a network that hasn't been pre-engineered to support that environment that it exists in, issues will occur and then service calls will ensue. And so this is a great opportunity for the integrators to go back to the homeowner and have that discussion of, you have an older network, or maybe this solution was not pre-engineered and we need to pre-engineer something for you. So on one hand, there is an incredible demand, which we've seen. And on the other hand, there is the burden of education and understanding and figuring out how to go and upgrade those clients right now.
That's good. And that leads right into our next question. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, Hagai, with the current state of where we're at right now, and people working from home and kids at home streaming, do you think a lot of dealers have reassessed their business strategies for marketing and selling their network services?
I would say this is an ongoing process, right? So if you look at the timeline of the existence of the network within our space, for a while, it used to be kind of the black sheep in the family, not something anyone wants to talk about. It doesn't sound good. It doesn't look good, right? Like a projector screen combo. It doesn't feel good, like those leather seats that you bought for your theater. It doesn't appeal to the senses. And so for a very long period of time, and that was maybe a decade ago, it really took the back seat. And what we're seeing now is that there is a complete transition. And I spoke to a few CEO a couple of weeks ago in the industry. They're seeing some slowdown in business. Some of them are seeing it more than others, where the networking segment across the board is booming right now, because both homeowners and integrators understand that while this is the 10% that is usually part of the overall budget for the project, it's a 10% that makes the other 90 operate properly. And so there is a shift both in the consumer mind and the integrator mind about the importance of the network and of course, having those conversations.
Were there, any kind of misconceptions that they've had to deal with, or that they're continuing to learn about networking? And then, on top of that, what can you tell us about the way your dealers work in terms of say obviously you like you're talking about, you have an apartment, but then, like I'm in just a modest size house, and then dealing with some of obviously your luxury customers that your dealers have. What are some of the things that your dealers are working with there?
So the misconceptions is that the good enough is good enough. Kind of like what happened here in my apartment, right? It was good enough until it wasn't, right? Because now our home is really our business. We're here 24/7 on lockdown, and the demand, it's not just me, it's everybody else that's here. It's me and my wife and our 4 kids, and everybody needs something off the network, and we're streaming constantly. And all of a sudden now that we are maximizing our demand off of this network, it will start showing the cracks, right? That it will happen across the board with every brand. And so good enough is not good enough. And this situation that I told you about my own apartment tells the story of why we need a pre-engineered solution. And so if before we could just throw some parts together on the day we come out to install the job, I hope that now every integrator is looking at this as an opportunity to learn from what is happening now across the board and start pre-engineering these solutions for the environments that they're going into. If it's your house, if it's my apartment, and Steven Spielberg's beach house has the same caliber, same standard here in Malibu than he would in the Palisades, in his big house, because it's not about the gear or who installed it. It's ultimately about the expectation of the client and the experience that they're going to have. And so whatever it is that you're installing, you need to cater to the client expectation and ultimate experience that they're looking for.
That certainly makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Could you what are some of the pitfalls that dealers need to avoid when designing and installing these systems? Are there rules of thumb that they ought to follow?
Yeah, I think that there's plenty of underselling. I think this is an age-old battle between the sales team and the technical team, and I've seen a lot of integrators address this in different ways, but a lot of the times you will see salespeople go for the shiny objects. If it's the nice speakers, if it's the TV, and pushing for that shift, and it's taken time, and I think it's happening now. The sales team needs to internalize the importance of the network and lead with it. And it's not easy because we want to go to the shiny objects. I'm building a house. Well, if I get to build it, right? We just talked about that. And I'm thinking about my JL subwoofers in my family room that I want to put in the wall. Network is not necessarily what comes to mind first, but ultimately we all depend on it. And so that shift really starts with the sales team going out there and talking about the importance and really leading with the network. This is going to tie into security, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but really that is the shift that the industry needs, is that the sales teams out there lead with that. And then everything else, guess what? If you sell a good network, regardless of brands and how it's configured, but if it's appropriate for the project, anything else you want to attach to that sale is going to function properly or better because you've done a good job with the network. Unlike, for example, I could sell a better TV, but if I sold a lacking network, that TV is not going to function as well.
Just to get into what you just mentioned a bit about the network security, obviously that's something that's always kind of associated in tandem with home networks would be the cybersecurity element of it. And one thing that this crisis has done is it's further exposed that, because we hear now about Zoom cybersecurity and things being hacked. So one thing that we recently did is we conducted a poll of our audiences on both not only CE Pro on the residential side, where we also know that guys are doing commercial jobs, but our sister publications, Commercial Integrator and Security Sales and Integration. And it was really kind of eye-opening, because we found that nearly 3/4 of the respondents, 73%, said, they weren't doing anything beyond what the manufacturer's own cybersecurity measures for their products were. Why do you think at this point integrators are still, seemingly not addressing that and leaving money on the table?
So it takes a lot of money spent for that money on the table to not be left on the table anymore. And I can tell you from experience, this is an effort that we are undertaking now at Access Networks. Building a security team, especially for a residential integrator, is a difficult task. We're still educating the industry about networking and router on a switch versus having a layer 3 core switch. Security is a whole different world. It takes people who specialize in security to lead those efforts. And so this is part of what we're in the process of doing, is creating a security program that caters to integrators, so that they don't have to have that expenditure in-house and that skill learned in-house, just like the rest of our networking business. But the other side of this that is probably even more difficult is selling it, right? How do you argue again for something that you can't see, you can't feel, that it's hard to put a value proposition on that? Now, I will say that probably timing-wise, this is the best time to be in the business and go after those clients. But the way to do it is not with a security offering alone. If I tried to, I'm gonna kind of try to sell myself on this. If I was an integrator, or an integrator came to me and said, "Hey, Guy, do you want a cybersecurity protection package for your home?" I would ask, what does it cost? What does it do for me? And probably say no if it was, I don't know, however many dollars a month, because I'm not looking to add recurring revenue into my bills, right? I don't want more, I want less. This is why a lot of people are cutting the cord. They want less recurring bills. The way to do it in my mind, and again, this is, I think, the biggest opportunity that we have as a channel, is to create a holistic program. Meaning it's not just cybersecurity, it's warranty, it's service and support, it's an upgrade path in the future. If it's years down the line, you get a certain discount when the next generation of Wi-Fi, if you just heard about that, there's new spectrum opening up. Guess what? We're gonna have new access points, and you're gonna get a new set of hardware in a few years. When a program is being created, that is a whole different ballgame. And so that's where we're going, right? We see the industry trying to come out with different solutions. Cybersecurity does not equate, for example, website monitoring and threat detection. It's not just that. It is a lot more than this. And so as a channel, we have to create a complete holistic program that caters to the homeowner, and really shows them and brings value to what we cover. It's not just that we look at your firewall or even your endpoint devices. We're looking at your whole home, all of your systems. We're checking them, we're servicing them. We'll give you an upgrade path in the future and strengthen our relationship and offer you something that really nobody else offers. So it's something that we're actively working on right now. We have one large integration company. I'm sure you heard of Bravas. They're one of our partners in this process. And you should see it probably end of the year, beginning of next year, something that becomes available to everyone.
Okay, not long ago, you partnered with Sophius. Can you tell us about some of the lessons that you've learned about cybersecurity since you started to work with them, and how dealers can apply those lessons to their businesses?
Sure. So part of what I learned, I just told you, is security is complex and it's hard, and it takes a dedicated team, even within Access Networks, that specializes in security. Some of it is intentional hires. Some of it is taking the rock stars in our team and allowing them to study on a path to security. And the other thing that I've learned, because I always thought, hey, network security, I kind of know what the basics are, but there is a lot more to it than just content filtering or endpoint monitoring the devices and the firewall itself from attacks. The opportunity that we see now is not just going into the home, but actually helping the integrators secure their business. And that is a point that hasn't really been addressed by other vendors in the channel. I think part of the reason is that it's difficult. It's probably the messy work that nobody wants to deal with, because we all have skeletons in the closet, and usually the showroom systems that I see are patchworks of different devices that are changing all the time, and there are multiple networks that support different departments. And we believe that doing the hard work first is where we can bring value. And so going into the showrooms, that's something we're doing with a lot of different integrators, and we've done this over the years, but as an actual program is something that is now happening with Bravus as well, where all of their showroom networks are going to be access network systems that are deployed with our gear. And then we also study their business. We do a information security analysis on the business and their potential exposure. And then we give them recommendations to the head of their IT department about what it is that we can do to improve upon the previous network with the replacement system that we're going to send over. And so plenty of opportunity, and especially with Sophos, they've been a great partner. They are very happy to be introduced into the residential channel in such a wide way to the entire country through us. While it's not an intentional vertical for them, kind of like the way it was with Ruckus back in the day. Ruckus never wanted to pursue Resi, and we kind of brought that opportunity to the table. I see a great future for us together. It's a great complement to everything else that we do.
That's great. And that was actually another question that we had in our survey that we did, in terms of, I think it wound up being at about 60% of the Resi guys, we're not implementing any kind of cybersecurity within their own business. So, that's definitely something that they need to work on. And kind of toward that end, lastly, we just wanted to ask you, besides or including access networks and any kind of resources that you guys have, or Sophos resources, and where else can dealers go in the industry to learn about this stuff and really educate themselves and get them in a point where they can confidently outfit their own businesses and then confidently sell to clients as well?
So this is a complicated question, right? Because obviously yours truly is biased. I think the manufacturer training is good. What we've done historically is take brands from outside the industry and bring them in and effectively create a solution from what we believe is enterprise grade. And if you want to define enterprise grade beyond mean time between failure on the devices, it's product that is designed for the enterprise and is deployed in the enterprise. And so that is what we seek, and really bringing in the best of breed in every category that we use. So right now we're down to Ruckus and Sophos. Those are the only products we deploy. And we provide education that is context aware. So let's say if you went to Sophos and you said, I want firewall training. Sophos doesn't necessarily know anything about Crestron and port 41, whatever it is that you may want to forward, but I would say don't do it. And so our training is really context aware, because it's relevant to this channel, and it's being provided by an integrator. Nathan Holmes, if you know him, Nathan is an amazing individual with a wealth of experience, used to work for Crestron, used to be an integrator here in LA, and has probably, one of the highest levels of networking knowledge within our business. So he understands what integrators need. He's done it himself. We met on a job site here in LA, a few blocks away from here, in 2007, and ultimately ended up joining our team. And I think this is, for me, this is where I would come to Access, even if you don't necessarily end up using us on every project. The training side of our business is very focused and will help you understand where you are, where we are, what the gap is, if there is any, and usually there is. And a lot of it revolves not just around, the Wi-Fi is probably the easy part. The wired networking side of the business is more difficult. Configuring complicated switches is not easy. Obviously, we simplify with packages that we ship to you that are ready to go, but you should know and understand it. And we are of the opinion that the more knowledge you have as an integrator, the better off you will be, and the better off ultimately all of us will be. And so we're looking to teach, to show, to educate, and share this information. And to a degree, even if you don't do any business with us, the fact that you are upping your game is good for all of us. We want homeowners having a positive experience with any residential integrator they interact with, because ultimately the next opportunity will come and they'll have a positive memory. And so we've seen a whole lot of situations where we were asked to come in and take over a project. We will happily do it if we can assist with a bare minimum of maybe configuration changes or advice. We'll do that. Sometimes it requires a complete upgrade to the entire system because it wasn't sold properly, it wasn't configured properly. But the focal point for us is really driving that experience across the board. Even if it's, it could be a Snap AV network, it doesn't matter. We check our ego at the door and we want to help.
Great. Well, that's perfect. And on that note, we really appreciate your time today and you being a resource for the CE Pro readership. And, let's all hope that we all get our networking game in good order for this, especially during this crisis and moving forward after that. So, Hagai, thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
Alex Camara, CEO of AudioControl. Thanks for joining me and CE Pro editor Jason Knott today.
Hey, thanks, Alan. Thanks, Jason. Good to be here.
First off, just, thanks for joining us. Tell us a little bit about how AudioControl and things are going up in the Pacific Northwest right now.
We're operating. We're classed as an essential business. We're supporting actually dealers right across the country at the moment who are engaged in various projects. We're operating under, strict CDC guidelines. So that's the big thing here. Clearly, business and revenues are down. That's just, I think, consistent with the majority of dealers in the industry. But what's, I think, helpful for us is having a manufacturing base here in the United States, up here in Seattle. We're able to react really quickly to what appear to be urgent needs. And what's been interesting for us is a lot of projects have been delayed. I think everyone's seeing that. But there's a lot of urgent work that's appearing, whether it's, somebody can't get a product from somebody else, whether it's a failure in a home office system or in a commercial facility. So we're really responding and building literally day by day to the needs. So good news is, we're shipping within a couple of days. Inventory's pretty good on the majority of products from the supply chain side. I'm so proud of the team here because everyone is just rallying. We've got all of our sales and administration and anybody that doesn't need to be in the factory is clearly working at home, as you guys are. I'm just proud, and we're pushing forward. It's
great to hear. Well, we want to talk a bit about that support today. Our April issue of CE Pro, as you know, has our annual Quest for Quality Awards program spotlight in it, and it's also online right now. And that's all about service and support. And AudioControl, you guys have done really well in the past few years with integrators calling you out, particularly for your tech support. And so we wanted to ask you a bit about that. So maybe we could start just by, telling us some of the ways that AudioControl has really fostered that environment for providing award-winning tech support for your dealers.
Love to, because it is so, I think, just at the fundamental core of what we do. We've done this for many, many years, and we have a pretty small core team of technicians here, technical experts, and the mantra we use, it's a bit of a cliche, but it is customer first, empathy, empowerment. And our team has been trained, and not just trained, but it's inside them to be able to work with integrators in the field when they call up and they get an answer within 3 rings, hopefully 95% of the time. They talk to a real person, a person who really understands what they're going through. And we give them empathy, and what we're trying to do, and this is, I think, a big difference, rather than just get a rule book and say, okay, what you need to do is this and this and this, we put ourselves in their shoes and solving their customer's issue. And that's the way we train the team right from day one, so that, we can empower the technician to make the customer happy. So it's not just about, oh, this XY product is not working, or I don't understand it, or I need training. It's really about empowerment to make the customer happy. And it's a subtle difference, but we live by that in the way we employ our technicians, the way we train them, and actually the way we actually then communicate, whether it's through our knowledge base whether it's through the person themselves, whether it's through our manuals, which, really, we still produce great manuals, whether it's online and so on. So it's, empathy, empowerment to the technician in the field.
Alex, could you explain a little bit further how the tech support team is actually structured? When a call comes in, does it go to a particular expert on a particular product category, or is everybody on the team cross-trained on all the audio control products? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, everyone is cross-trained, okay, because I think that's the best way to handle it. It will come into our main switchboard. As I said, we have this sort of 3-ring rule that, we endeavor to answer within 3 rings, and that includes me. If I see it go twice, I'm looking at my phone and just, getting ready to pick up as well. We'll then ascertain what the product is, okay? And we, one of the interesting things is we don't get a ton of calls. When our products are made, tested, to the nth degree here in Seattle. So, we are very, very, we love the fact we don't get many products back and we don't get that many calls. But when we get a call, it gets answered, gets put to one of the technicians. We do have a couple of the team that have certain specialisms because, more and more we've become a network software company because, our director amplifiers are a good example. They are software network based. So we have extra skills with some of the team. But what's also important is our engineering team is here. So, it's not that many calls, but if we need to, we can also then patch a call through to our engineering team, whether it's our software developer here, whether it's our head of engineering, whether it's one of the engineers themselves. So that allows us not just to have technical support, but a first line sort of backup as well. But we have 4 people here on site. Not a big team, as I said, but it's they do an awesome job in just getting that call. We have I think probably we don't time somebody. One of the interesting things sometimes, one of our technicians that joined us about a year ago, he said every call he was on was timed. And he was like, well, this was, your time is like, you spent 4 minutes, 30 seconds on average to pick on a call. You need to be at 3 minutes 50 or whatever it was. We have calls that go from 5 seconds to 3 hours, if we're really in depth with somebody.
So a lot of times the problem that you're deciphering isn't really an audio control product problem. It could be another component that audio control is connected with. Do you try and recreate the system when you're talking to that customer so you can kind of get down to that nitty gritty and figure it out? Hey, this is not an issue with us. It's an issue with this other component.
Yeah, I'm glad you recognize that because that is probably one of the biggest things we train our team on. We don't, as you know, we don't make speakers and we don't make the source of the music. We do all the electronics in between that makes it sound great. But that means we're a hub. We're the hub of the system. Whether it's a receiver, whether it's a processor, whether it's an amplifier, we've got multiple products going through, our own products, so that's a really big piece because we have to understand how it fits into the system, what components are attached to it. Is there a commonality there? Is there a firmware issue with another product? I have to say a lot of the time it's just about updating firmware, not in our product necessarily, but in somebody else's product because they've made a change and the integrator hasn't had the time or realized that there was a firmware upgrade. But yeah, it's a hub. We understand the system. We will design the system ourselves, literally when in talking to the integrator in the field, and we know the product, so we work very well with whether it's Sony or Origin or Sonans or whoever it is. So we understand where we fit into the ecosystem. We certainly do build the systems here as well. We have all the control systems, in factory here. We have multiple products from multiple manufacturers, so that's a big piece of it as well. But yeah, you're 100% right. We are the hub. So it's not just about, what's happened to our product. We have to really understand the whole system.
Alex, clearly, this pandemic going on right now has really highlighted alternate means of communication. Obviously, we're on Zoom right now. Is that something that I know you said, obviously, the phone calls get picked up right away. Are dealers coming to you, to your tech support team from the field and using things like FaceTime or even video conferencing to point out anything and be able to show them, hey, here's a rack system. Here's something that I need to be looked at in real time?
Yeah, we do. We do everything from obviously, behind the scenes, we do training. We'll probably do 2 or 3 actually trainings, directly with, integrator companies, with 4 or 5 of their technicians, probably 2 or 3 of those every week almost, but for support in the field, the biggest success we've had is with remote access into the job, and primarily the one we use is TeamViewer. TeamViewer has been just a revelation for us in the last couple of years. It's very simple, very easy to use. It allows us to really to go in and actually, without breaching any security protocols, be able to take control of the event in the field, and at the same time it's a good training aid for the integrator, because he's watching what we're doing. So whether we need to go into their computer, into the system, into the software, into the product itself, we're able to do that. And a lot of our products today as well are DSP products, so we're able to access those remotely, which is another good piece. But TeamViewer for us has been, I think, to be honest, some people initially are like, oh, what do you mean you want to touch my computer? I'm not sure about that. But once they understand what it is, there's no security issues, and we're able to go in there and actually help them, solve the issue pretty quickly sometimes. You see it light up in their eyes, actually. You just see, oh my God, that's so amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
What are some of the other kinds of feedback that you get from integrators that you've, since incorporated into how you deal with them or how you work with them from the tech support or other kinds of support standpoint?
I think the biggest feedback we get a ton of just great, emails afterwards and calls, and one for us is we breed loyalty. I mean, I think we're not an enormous company, but we breed loyalty with our dealers through the technical support that we deliver. I think that's a key piece. People come back to us because they know that if there's an issue, they'll get a real person. They'll even get to know that person over a couple of years. If they phone 3 or 4 times, they get to see the same person, or for training. So that's a big piece. It's not just a voice at the end of the phone. We try to get to know people. I think also what's important there is that we get told all the time, gosh, I really felt valued in the way you handled this. I solved my customer's issue. Because I think another thing we talk about a lot is, their customer is our customer. I mean, that's the reality. I mean, it's, if somebody, if the end customer is having a problem with an audio control piece of equipment, it's our customer, and the integrator is customer as well. So I think that's a big piece of this as well for us, in just being valued, empathy, and they believe we care, and we do care, so that's another big piece of it. I think care, empathy are 2 of the big things that we hear time and time again. Wow, you guys really got into that. You really understood my issue. And by the way, even to the point where, if we get a job or a frustration or something that we don't understand, and obviously not today, unfortunately, but, we'll put an engineer or a technician on a plane. It'll probably be a bus in the future, going 5 days across the state, but, we'll see. But we put them, into the job site itself sometimes. So we've done that numerous times where we want to learn, or it's a really big, complicated project, perhaps with a new dealer, and we want to basically, experience that ourselves. And it's great for our technicians, not just to be here in Seattle, 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year. If we can get them out, we'll do that. We take one of our technicians to every trade show. So whether it's CEDIA or some other event, we'll take a technician with us so they can talk to customers live.
Do you have any quick troubleshooting best practices tips that you think integrators should follow when they're out in the field and they encounter a problem with a system? What's their thinking? Is the first call that they should pick up the phone and call you guys, or are there certain things they should be doing before they try and talk to your tech support team?
It varies a lot, okay, to be honest. I would love, it would be great if people reference the manual sometimes. Obviously that's it's cool. But I know it's also the reality in the field is that something's happening. You're in the middle of a rack and you just grab the phone and you phone. But obviously the manual has I think half of the issues that people call up about are in the manual. The other thing we have is the knowledge base. We have a knowledge base system now, which is on our website, which can be accessed. And actually what's interesting about the knowledge base is I think over half of the articles in there have been written by integrators in the field in responding to a question or an issue or so on. And then I think probably the most important one, and I think most integrators get this, but some don't, is when you call us, ideally know what the system is, because obviously, what are the components that are going into it? What's the cables? What is the output? I mean, it's sort of, challenging if someone calls up and says, hey, your XYZ product isn't connecting. You know, what do? Channel 16. I say, well, okay, what's the sources? What's the, and they go, I'm not on site at the moment. I have to go back. So just the more information, the more we get to it more quickly, and the more we may have said, we know what that is. You haven't updated the XYZ, firmware for that product. If you do that, that'll be fine, and so on. So that would be one of the tips that we would love to give. So.
Great. Well, Alex Camara, CEO of AudioControl, again, thanks for joining us today. We really appreciated your insights about tech support and how companies can better work with their integrators and vice versa. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.